It was a cloudy Wednesday morning when Olivia Kingsley, 33-year-old CEO of Kingsley Tech, walked into the company's glass-walled lobby wearing a sleek gray suit and red heels that echoed across the marble floor. With her sharp cheekbones, confident walk, and a reputation for breaking men's egos in the boardroom and the chess room, she was someone people noticed. She had built her empire from the ground up and was known for her fierce intelligence, unmatched ambition, and love. For chess wasn't just a hobby to her, it was a test of wit, strategy, and control. At company parties and even during meetings, Olivia would challenge board members or employees to games. No one had ever beaten her, and she liked to joke, "If you beat me in chess, I'll marry you." It was her version of playful arrogance, something she said half seriously and half mockingly, because she believed no one ever could. That day, as she strolled through the building, she was on her way to inspect the new AI division. It was a big day venture capitalists were visiting, and everything needed to be perfect. In the corner of the lobby, as usual, was a man pushing a mop. Everyone called him Big Joe. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark skin, salt and pepper, hair, and quiet eyes that hid decades of stories. He wore a faded janitor's uniform and always seemed to be humming some old jazz tune under his breath. Big Joe wasn't just a cleaner. He was the invisible man of Kingsley Tech. He saw everything, but said very little. Most people walked past him without noticing, thinking he was just another aging janitor hanging on to his job until retirement. But Olivia always greeted him politely. She believed in acknowledging everyone. Still, she had never really spoken. To him, beyond a quick nod or good morning, that day something changed. As she passed by him, she noticed he was setting up a small wooden chessboard on the side table next to the waiting chairs. She stopped and raised an eyebrow. "Joe, play chess?" she asked, amused. He smiled slightly, not looking up. "Little ma'am helps pass the time during breaks." Olivia crossed her arms and smirked. "You know I've never lost a game, right?" Joe didn't respond. He placed the black and white pieces gently in position. She tilted her head. Taunt Joe looked up at her with calm, patient eyes. "You sure, ma'am?" Olivia laughed. "Why not? What do I have to lose?" People nearby paused to watch. A few interns gathered near the elevators. A marketing assistant pretended to look at her phone while secretly recording. Olivia sat down, gracefully flicked her hair, and said her favorite line, "Beat me in chess, and I'll marry you." Joe raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. He just nodded. "Black or white, ma'am?" "You can go first," Olivia offered, feeling generous. Joe turned the board so he had white. Then, with slow, steady movements, he played his first move. Pawn. 2e4, Olivia mirrored it. Pawn 2e5. Joe played knight 2f3. Olivia followed. Knight 2c6. Then Joe leaned forward, looked her in the eye gently, and moved his queen to h5. A flicker of surprise passed through Olivia's eyes. She hesitated. It was an odd move, but not unheard of. She responded with pawn to g6. Joe's hand moved like it had done this thousands of times. He slid his queen to e5, capturing Olivia's pawn. Checkmate. He said softly. There was a silence so thick it felt like the air had stopped moving. Olivia blinked. She looked at the board. Then again, her eyes widened. It was the three-move checkmate. The fool's mate's smarter cousin. She had walked right into it. The interns gasped. One choked on her coffee. The receptionist's mouth hung open. For the first time in a long while Olivia Kingsley had lost, not just a game, but in 3 humiliating moves. To the janitor, she looked up at Joe, who wasn't smiling, wasn't mocking, wasn't smug. He just sat back, folded his hands, and nodded respectfully. Olivia laughed, stunned, then leaned back in her chair and said, "Okay, I did say I'd marry whoever beat me."
Ow!
A murmur passed through the small crowd. Joe shook his head slowly, chuckling. "I don't need a wife, ma'am. Just a good game." But Olivia, now truly curious, leaned forward. "Where did you learn to play like that?" Joe looked around the room, saw that people were listening, and replied quietly, "Used to play in parks back in Harlem. Played some good folks. Some rough folks even played in tournaments when I was younger. Almost went pro, but life happened. She was intrigued. For once, someone had gotten under her skin, and not in the way most men tried. He hadn't flirted, bragged, or begged for attention. He just beat her at the one thing she thought she ruled. Later that day, Olivia asked her assistant to pull up Joe's file. His full name was Joseph Winston, born in 1964. Former chess champion of the Bronx, taught chess to underprivileged kids. In the 80s, had a few run-ins with the law, not crimes, but protests. Civil rights marches, lost his wife to cancer in the 90s, took odd jobs, eventually landed at Kingsley Tech when he was nearing 60. No one had ever asked. The next day, Olivia came down to the lobby with 2 coffees and invited Joe to play again. He declined politely, but the day after that, he agreed. Soon, every Friday at 5 p.m., Olivia and Joe sat down for a game. Employees gathered not to mock, but to marvel. The CEO and the janitor, locked in mental war. Sometimes she won. Sometimes he did. Most often, they drew. As weeks passed, Olivia began to learn things about Joe she'd never imagined. His mother had taught him chess when he was 6. She had cleaned houses all her life and used chess to teach him discipline. Joe used to read strategy books from the library, sometimes staying overnight in shelters when he was young. He had never pursued fame or wealth. He just loved the game, loved the way it made the world fall silent for a moment. How it allowed a man with nothing to outwit a man with everything. One evening, as the rain tapped softly on the windows, Olivia asked, "Why didn't you tell? Anyone who you were?" Joe shrugged. Didn't matter. People see what they want to see. A man pushing a mop? Must be dumb. Must be invisible. That's okay. I like it quiet. She nodded slowly. You're not invisible to me anymore. He looked at her then, not smiling, just steady. Didn't think I was. That's why I played. Over the next few months, Joe's presence in the company shifted. Olivia began a mentorship program in his name, the Winston Initiative, to teach strategy and logic through chess to disadvantaged youth. Joe led it. He trained interns, gave lunchtime lectures, spoke at TEDx. People began calling him Coach Winston. He still mopped the floors every morning. It's not because he had to, but because he liked routine, liked staying grounded. And Olivia, she had changed too. She still wore her red heels, still ruled the boardroom, but her gaze was softer. She listened more. She learned to lose with grace. One Friday, nearly a year after that first game, she sat across from him again. Still single, Joe? She asked. Half joking, he looked at her, eyes crinkling with laughter. You asking again? She laughed, maybe. Joe smiled for real this time. How about this? Beat me in chess, and I'll take you to dinner. Olivia smirked. Deal. That game lasted 2 hours. Neither of them won, but they went to dinner anyway. And for the first time, it wasn't about who could outplay whom. It was just 2 people from different worlds sitting across a table talking, laughing, remembering a moment when the balance of power shifted not through money, not through charm, but through 3 quiet moves on a checkered board. And in that space, something rare was born. Not just respect, not just friendship, but something that neither of them, despite all their years, had expected. Something like love.